I just wanted just a personal example of that. The Edmund Rice Centre, about 6 months ago, a young Sri Lankan guy that we've been working with, assisting his case. And part of our work is to work with a group of lawyers to ensure that people who are seeking asylum or challenging the finding are well represented. And so this young guy had turned up this day with his letter saying, you have been found to not have a well-founded fear of persecution. You now need to prepare for removal back to Sri Lanka. So he came in with this, and the guy that had been working with him wasn't there at that particular moment. So we said, look, he'll be back on Monday morning. This is Friday afternoon. Let's come back on Monday. We'll give you a ring over the weekend. We'll make sure everything's fine. Yes, sir, very politely. And with that, he stepped back out of the building and took out of his backpack a knife, ripped open his shirt, and began to stab himself and cut his arms in the foyer. And one of our very brave young Aboriginal workers got up and called the receptionist out, and they managed to get the knife off him, which wasn't very sharp. It was more, superficial wounds that were taking place. But they didn't know that. And he laid him on the floor, so we called an ambulance. But instead of an ambulance turning up, we got the tactical response group who taped off both ends of the street, and 6 heavily armed men stormed the building because a refugee ran amok with a knife, which is precisely what didn't happen. It was an exercise of attempted self-harm. It took us maybe half an hour of negotiating with the police before they would agree to call an ambulance. And instead of getting the ambulance, we got a special ops ambulance man who came storming into the building and stood over this gentleman on the floor, who was by this stage fairly comatose in a catatonic state, with his head being cradled by our resident priest, Father Court-Mostovic, and screamed at him.
Did you do this just for the attention?
Breaking every protocol that an ambulance person is supposed to be putting in place. Then it took maybe 20 minutes talking to him to get to realise why this person was in this situation, what had happened, what he fears if he went back. And finally we got an ambulance. And a couple of Christian brothers went with him in the ambulance, and there we called up the Tamil community, and they just came and embraced him and looked after him over the weekend, and he's still with us. Yeah, he's still battling on. But the point in this story is that it occurred to me that whilst on the one hand, yes, we're arguing about the policies and institutions that we've put in place, that at every level at the moment in our country, when these asylum seekers encounter our institutions, too often the very first thing they run into is cruelty. And I guess that's the deeper part of this crisis that's at work here. It's not just the human cost of what Gillian has recorded in that report to children. It's the human cost of what it's doing to all of us and what it's doing to our society, because the one thing that's been missing has been any sense of a respect for the dignity of the human person. And that's got a cost to our own humanity. Now, as I was saying before earlier, that 30 years from now, Prime Minister will rise in the Parliament and he will offer an apology to the descendants of those asylum seekers who now are having this cruelty inflicted upon them in our name. And we know that's going to happen. We also know that one of those children on Christmas Island in 10 years' time will be playing full forward for Collingwood. His sister will be studying medicine at Monash University. Cousin will be on the wing for the Rabbitohs, because that's what happens in Australia. So there has to be a break in this, and I guess part of what I'm advocating for, as well as the policy, is to get to a point where the people come back into the frame seriously.